Yes guys, welcome back to another episode of FPL content for you guys. I'm FPL Coach, also known as Coach Indy. On today's video, we're going to be reviewing game week 9 and what a game week it was for many people in terms of positive score lines and big scores, but also maybe getting the wrong captaincy and having some low scores and dropping down the ranks as well. So going to be touching on that. Like always, we always talk about injury news and possible suspensions, COVID stuff that could affect our decision making going forward. On top of that, we'll also look at possible replacements for those types of injuries. We'll also look at my possible transfers for this week, and then we'll look at game week 10. So without further ado, let's dive into the video. Okay, so let's get into my game week 9 review. And as you can see, I have got a big smile on my face. I've scored 113 points. Really happy about that. In fact, I'm ecstatic by it. My rank is absolutely flying at the moment. I'm up to 64k 518 from 268k. So I've gained sort of 204k in this game week. Overall points of 628. So yeah, absolutely flying. What we'll say is obviously there's a lot of rhetoric around people's ranks at this stage of the season and having possible bad game weeks this time around, and obviously some people being on the right side of it, if you like. And what I mean by that is obviously the Lukaku injury was the big news, and how that sort of the makeup of your squad on the back of that, i.e. do you bring in Harry Kane in, do you bring in Vardy in, do you maybe sell a midfielder as well and do sort of take a hit if you like, or if you've got 2 free transfers, take out Lukaku, bring in maybe someone like a Wang or Jimenez or Tony, and then bring in a Son or a Habit, someone like that. So there was lots of options in terms of what you decided to do. I'm glad I went for neither of those, and to be honest with you, they weren't even in consideration for me. I decided to bring in Antonio, which we'll touch on a little bit later on. But yeah, really happy with that decision. Just running through the team, so I decided to play 1-3-4-3 formation. Ramsdale in goal, picked up 3 points, so 1 save point there for me. A little disappointed there was no clean sheet, despite Arsenal being so dominant in the first half. You thought they would be able to see out that, but Villa, to be fair to them, did play better in the second half and probably deserved a goal. So we keep moving there. Cancelo picked up 1, likewise Diaz picked up 2. So there's no clean sheet in terms of Manchester City there. But on another day, it could have been a lot more favourable there. I'm not sure if either of them are on for bonus points before the Brighton goal, if you like. And I don't know what Edison's doing there, to be honest with you. The game's at 3-0. The Brighton players at a tight angle. He was being marked as well. It wasn't like it was a clean through and goal 1-on-1 with the keeper. It wasn't like it was 2-2, that kind of thing either, where a decision has to be made, whether you come out and sort of smother the player, etc. It's just all the wrong decisions were made there from Edison. So he's kind of killed me in that sense. But again, going back to 113 points, I can't complain too much. Reece James picked up 13 for me. Now, remember last week he picked up 1 point, came off the bench, little cameo, really disappointed. But this week picked up 13. Now, if you divide those two scores together into 2, so 13 and 1, divide that by 2, 7 points on average per game week, you probably take that as a Reece James owner. So I'm quite happy that he might come off the bench and pick up 1 point, or he might not come on at all. Then other weeks he might pick up 10, 12, 14 points, etc. So yeah, I'm quite easy with that. I'm quite calm. I know that's kind of what's going to happen with Reece James, so I can't complain if it does happen going forward. So he obviously picked up a goal and an assist there as well. So a goal and clean sheet, sorry, as a bonus. Well, I think it was 1 bonus actually. So quite happy with Reece James there. Vina picked up 1 point, picked up an injury, and we'll talk about him later on. He could be my transfer out this week. Obviously, we don't know about team news just yet, but like I said, we'll touch on that later on. Phil Foden picked up 18 points, maybe the most jammiest 18 points going this season, in terms of his goals, certainly anyway. So the first goal, kind of Brighton defenders tried to sort of sweep it away in terms of a clearance. It's hit Phil Foden, it's kind of looped into the roof of the net, if you like, and counts as obviously Foden's goal. I'm not going to complain as an owner, so happy with that. Second goal, Jesus had a strike. It's kind of hit Foden's backside or thigh and deflected and done Sanchez there as well. So again, I'm not going to complain about it, but I do feel quite jammy by it, a bit lucky. And then you can even maybe argue the timing of the assist on the last goal, kind of in injury time. Mara scored the goal as well. So 18 points. Again, not going to complain. We keep moving there. Smith-Rowe picked up 13. Really happy with him. Bit of a differential at this stage of the season. His price is going up week on week. It's kind of 2 of the last 3 games he's made returns. In this game, he got a goal, an assist, picked up bonus points as well. So yeah, really, really happy with him. I think I've gained. So I've had him since the beginning of the season. He dropped down to 5.3 in value from 5.5. I think he's back up to 5.5 now. So really, really happy with him. Always on the verge of going to 5.5. Mo Salah, you little beauty, as Jamie Carragher would say. Really, really happy with his FPL points. Obviously, scoring a hat-trick, getting assists, getting bonus points. Scored 24 points, double that as captain to 48. However, as a Man United fan, he can off. So, yeah, really disappointed with Man United's performance. But in terms of FPL, yeah, really, really happy with Mo Salah. So, yeah, we keep moving in terms of Mo Salah. And we'll talk about captaincy later on. Ivan Toney picked up 2. Jimenez picked up 5. Got the assist for the Jimenez, for the Hwang goal, sorry. And then Antonio, who was my transfer in this week for Lukaku, and we touched on that earlier on in terms of what players to bring in, what players not to bring in. You know, bringing in Havertz, Kane, Vardy, all them kind of players in various positions. I went for Antonio. I think the way I looked at it was, going forward, he's had his rest in Europe. West Ham won 3 out of 3 in Europe as well. So he's probably only going to play one of the next 3 games in Europe. Therefore, he's going to be playing quite a lot in the league. Granted, they've got the League Cup game against Manchester City midweek, and they'll probably get knocked out, although it's not guaranteed. They might, it is the Manchester City Cup, so anything can happen, I suppose, in that one. But in all probability, you think they're going to get knocked out, so therefore, he's going to be very much focused in terms of the Premier League. And I know the fixtures are difficult. They've got Liverpool and I think Manchester City, Chelsea, the next sort of 5 or 6. I get that, but I feel like on his day he could score a goal against anyone. So quite happy to bring him in. Obviously, the decision for this week, scoring, very, very happy. In terms of the bench, Foster picked up 1, Trent picked up 10, Livramento 9, and Brownhill 2. Now, Foster, meh, Brownhill, meh, is what it is. Trent 10 and Livramento 9. And Livramento, I'm disappointed in the fact that I could have had his points, yes, but the defenders I decided to play, the midfielders I decided to play, well, the whole team I decided to play, for me had better fixtures, so I can't moan about it too much. Now, Trent was probably the big decision throughout the whole game week. For me, it was a toss-up between him or Smith-Rowe to play. And obviously, if you just go and looking at points, Smith-Rowe scored 3 more. So in that sense, I'm quite happy. But having, those points on the bench, it could have been so much more. I touched on the Man City clean sheets as well. I think I worked it out, if Cancelo had his clean sheet, same as Diaz, you took out Trent for Rafinha, and then you took Tony out and put Livramento in, I'd have gained another 25 points. I know that's me being really sort of harsh on myself and a bit stingy, if you like, because as FPL managers, you want every point as possible. You want every point. You want to be climbing them ranks, etc. So that's just me being harsh on myself and just wanted to squeeze everything out of my squad. But yes, I could have had 138 points, but I scored 113. I know other managers haven't done so well this week, so yeah, really, really happy with that. Rank is up to 64, 518, and this is the highest I've been this season. So yeah, really good platform to sort of build on. And yeah, let's move on to some injury news next. Okay, so let's just get into some injury news that sort of occurred over the last week or so, or on the back of game week 9. So just getting into Romelu Lukaku. Obviously, we knew about his ankle injury in the Champions League midweek. That was really disappointing, as a lot of people would have penciled in Lukaku for this run of games for Chelsea. But on top of that, they would have probably had him as captain against Norwich as well. So obviously, on the back of the news, we knew obviously he picked up an injury. Some people were probably thinking, okay, we'll just have to bring in Werner instead, as he would just play there. But then he picked up the hamstring injury in the same game, and then sort of Havertz kind of stepped in and kind of played the remainder of that game, and also played the Norwich game as well. So yeah, so he picked up an ankle injury. Tuchel was quoted to say he's going to miss some games. So for me, I don't know how long that's going to be exactly. He did hint it could be just the midweek game as well, i.e. the EFL Cup. He could be back for the Newcastle game. It just depends on the severity of the ankle injury in terms of swelling, what way, if it was rolled, etc. Not sure if it was, or if it was just an impact injury. Those things do matter. So yeah, just have to watch his space. He could be back for the Newcastle game. For me, I don't think he will be. For me, it's probably more likely he's going to probably miss the next run of games up until the next international break, and then he probably won't go away with Belgium. Then he'll get sort of 3 or 4 weeks off and he'll be fresh ready to go over the sort of the Christmas period, which obviously Chelsea's fixtures do turn a little bit, but still as an asset he's be fresh ready to go, and Chelsea obviously are a very good team, so he'll be an asset for FPL managers as well. So yeah, potentially could be back for Newcastle away, Burnley at home, Leicester away, but probably more likely that he'll be back for the Leicester away, which I think is after the international break. Moving on to Jamie Vardy. So he picked up a knee injury during game week 9 in the fixture against Brentford. So to quote Brendan Rodgers after the game, he said he felt something in the warm-up in his knee. So obviously he did play 45 minutes. He felt like he could continue. Probably had some dialogue. He knows his body at the age he is, sort of 33, 34. He spoke to Rodgers, probably spoke to the Fizz as well. But they thought, right, we'll give it a go. It's better to start you than not. He probably didn't have that dynamism and that acceleration, explosiveness in his game. So probably a smart decision to take him off at half time. Obviously, you know, at his age as well, it might take that bit longer for him to recover potentially. So I think, again, you have to watch his space in terms of press conferences. I do believe Leicester are playing in the League Cup as well. Don't quote me on that though. However, obviously, you know, they've got Arsenal at home next game week, Leeds, and then Chelsea after the international break. So just going to have to, you know, watch that space with Vardy. When it comes to some replacements for these players in a little while, but yeah, Vardy is probably a bit more of a worry, I would suggest, than Lukaku. Although at this stage we've probably got more info on the Lukaku injury, but just because of the Vardy, the age he's at, I think, and the type of injury, i.e. the knee, there's no real muscle around the knee. I'm not saying there's muscle around the ankle either, but generally speaking, with knee injuries, it's, you know, ACLs, that kind of thing. I'm not suggesting it is, but it's never sort of a, you know, a short injury. So that's kind of my experience and my understanding of knee injuries versus sort of ankle injuries, if you like. And moving on to Rafinha, so he picked up an ankle injury. By all accounts, it sounds like it's quite nasty. I haven't seen it personally. I've just heard a few people saying it looked quite nasty. He has come out on social media saying, just coming on to say I'm fine. Obviously, he hasn't diagnosed himself. Maybe he has maybe some indications from the Fizz already that it's not as bad as you think. He needs a few days rest and you'll be fine. But all these sort of X-rays and you know, all these kind of things need to sort of take some time for the swelling to, if there is some swelling around the area, I imagine there is. It would take 24 hours, 48 hours for that kind of thing to sort of blow up or not so, and then you can sort of do the X-rays and you know, do them sort of tests that you need to do on them types of injuries. So obviously, if he is missing, a lot of people would have bought him in for this Norwich fixture away from home, possible captain choice as well. However, obviously he is going to miss it, then obviously you're probably going to move him on depending on how long the injury is. On the back of that, obviously as well, he's obviously potentially be going to international with Brazil, so he could be missing the first game back, which is, I believe, is Spurs away as well. So is it worth maybe keeping him just for the Leicester game? If he does miss the Norwich game, he's going to miss the Spurs game as well. There's loads of things to consider there, so just have to watch that space with all the injuries to run through, especially with Rafinha as well. Okay, so moving on to some injury replacements for the likes of Lukaku, Vardy and Rafinha. The three we spoke about, and there might be one or two others that you might have in your squad that you've got to think about, but for the main three, sort of, we'll just touch on those for now. Now, obviously, some people would have transferred out Lukaku already. I know some people haven't. They're probably waiting to think, you know, I might only miss 1 week and be back for game week 10 potentially. But obviously, if some more news comes out from Tuchel this week, then you need to think about what players you're going to be bringing in. So on the left-hand side, you've got Lukaku and Vardy going out. So I've kind of given 4 different options at different price points as well. So in terms of Lukaku, Harry Kane is probably the obvious choice because of Spurs fixtures coming up in terms of game week 12 and beyond. And even if you wanted to bring him in now, and some people I know already have, but that could be just saving yourself a transfer further down the line. Relatively same price point. I think there's maybe 0.6 million difference at the moment. So I'm sure some managers will have that money in the bank. If they haven't, then obviously you might have to make another transfer, etc. In terms of sort of more, not quite mid-range, but kind of the lower end of the top tier, if you like. So Vardy's in around 10.1, I think it is. Aubameyang's 10 million and Firmino's like 8.9, 9 million, something like that. So those possible replacements could come in for Vardy if he is obviously given some dangerous or bad news in terms of injury. Aubameyang at Arsenal at the moment seems to be doing quite well. Scored a few goals in the last couple of games. His form seems to be a lot better. His work ethic, etc. The team seems to be a lot better. So it wouldn't be the worst shot in the world. Good differential as well. Whether you want to double up in Arsenal, I don't know in terms of attack. If you have got Saka, Smith-Rowe, etc. Firmino is coming into sort of Firmino territory, i.e. going into that winter period, if you like, where he sort of excels. I know he scored the hat-trick last week or the week before, but generally speaking, Firmino time is sort of going into back end of November into December, that kind of time, January, etc. So you might want to jump on that a bit earlier. Obviously, there is some rotation risks there because you've got Jota and Mane, etc. And then if you really wanted to sort of save some money, is collect your Nacho. So obviously if Vardy's is ruled out for say 3 months, for example, that leaves Daka, that leaves Inacho as your two strikers, if you like, at Leicester. So we obviously know Inacho's in good form at the moment anyway, and obviously he's a more senior striker if Vardy's out in terms of ahead of Daka. So he could be a really nice differential. I think he's valued at 7 million as well. So you could end up saving quite a bit of money there in the bank and then maybe make an upgrade elsewhere. In terms of Rafinha, obviously he's valued at around 6.5 million. The obvious choice is maybe to go for Mason Mount. Obviously he scored the hat-trick at the weekend. If you've got a spare 1 million, I think Mount's 7.5 million. So if you've got that spare million, you can upgrade him, then absolutely fine. Again, I've gone a price a bit lower as well. So Callum Hudson-Odoi was a player that was on my radar prior to Game Week 9, just because obviously the position he came on and played midweek. Obviously now he has scored. If these players are ruled out for another 2-3 weeks, i.e. Werner and Lukaku, then he might get a nice little run there for 3-4 games. And a price point of 5.3 million, that seems like a very sensible shout as well. Again, saving yourself a bit of money in terms of if you go down from Rafinha down to Hudson-Odoi, yourself 1.2 million. Again, you can make an upgrade somewhere else. And then Mane. Now, obviously, Rafinha to Mane is probably about £5 million difference, something like that. I think Mane's around 11.9. However, if you are thinking about, sort of maybe if you've got two of these in your squad, of Vardy and Rafinha, or Lukaku and Rafinha, you might want to sort of downgrade a strike and then bring in Mane, for example. So if you bring in Mane and maybe, I don't know, someone else I'm not saying a Nacho, for example, it could be him, it could be a Wang, someone like that, you could sort of bulk up in the Liverpool attack. Obviously, they look quite fiery at the moment. Obviously, you have got the rotation risk with Jota there and Firmino, etc. But it might be worth sort of having a bit of a differential there. One thing to sort of just mention as well, if you are thinking about bringing in someone like a Mane going into sort of November, December, that's absolutely fine. But then you've got to think about an exit strategy as well. You've got the African Cup of Nations. Well, I think all the African players that have been called up to those respective nations will be released shortly after the Boxing Day fixtures. So you're only going to get Mane for possibly 6 weeks. Granted, there's a lot more fixtures. You might get 8-10 games out of him, something like that. But just something to bear in mind as in terms of transfer out. And if you've got Salah already, he's obviously another player that he's going to be leaving for the African Cup of Nations as well. So there's 2 players there you might have to think about selling as well. So just think about your planning if you are thinking about possibly jumping on Mane as well as having Salah, etc. Okay, moving on to some early transfer thoughts for Game Week 10. So my first option is to roll my transfer. I only wildcarded sort of 2 weeks ago. I had to make an emergency transfer last week. You have to adapt in FPL. Nothing goes smoothly. Lukaku came out. Antonio came in. So my squad's quite set. Obviously, we don't know about the Rafinha news. He came off injured in the last game. If he is ruled out for, say, Game Week 10 and 11, and then we know he's going to have quarantine issues for Game Week 12, then I'm probably just going to get rid and bring in Mason Mount. That'll leave me 2.8 million in the bank. Again, I can sort of move here and there. It might be that I upgrade a striker, maybe get a more expensive midfielder in, for someone like a Smith-Rowe, for example. I've got options there. I've got a good money sort of in the bank, if you like. However, if Rafinha, if Bielsa comes out on the Thursday and says, yeah, he's fine to play, then I'll probably just keep him. Mason Mount won't come in. He'll probably be my vice captain. It just depend on the wording of what Bielsa says. So, for example, if Bielsa has his press conference on Thursday and says, he hasn't trained yet, he's training today, a couple of training sessions, he should be fine, then I probably won't give him the armband because he's not in electric form, the team's not in electric form. However, if Bielsa comes out and says, yeah, he just missed training Monday, he's trained absolutely fine since Tuesday, he's had a 4 weeks worth of training, if you like, then I probably will give him the vice captaincy. I don't think it's going to make any difference because I'm not going to ruin it just yet. You'll see who my captain is going to be in the next image, if you like. But that's kind of where my early transfer thoughts are. If Rafinha is ruled out, I won't give Mason Mount the vice captaincy. I'll probably give it to Phil Foden. I just feel like he's got a bit more goal threat. Home to Crystal Palace as well. Again, that's depending on how Phil Foden does midweek, if he plays minutes, etc. I know they've got West Ham in the Cup, so it's all kind of dependent on the midweek games and how the injury news of Rafinha goes to kind of where my transfer leads to or whether I roll, etc. Okay, so this is kind of how my Game Week 10 is lined up at the moment. So I'm looking to play a 1-4-3-3 formation. Like I touched on the last bit, if Rafinha is fit, he would absolutely be my starting lineup. Smith-Rowe will drop to the bench. And he'll be my vice captain as well. It is Norwich. Obviously, Norwich a disastrous result against Chelsea. I'm not saying Leeds are Chelsea, but there is obviously, big threat potentially for Raphinha to go big and maybe get a brace, get a couple of assists as well potentially, or goal and assist, for example. Mo Salah will be my captain. Home to Brighton. I mean, why would you not captain Mo Salah? He's in unbelievable form. I think he scored something like 10 games in a row for Liverpool in all competitions. It's frightening, to be honest with you. So it'll be Ramsdale in goal, away to Leicester. Cancelo home to Crystal Palace, although there is some... It all depends if he plays midweek. If he gets a rest midweek, then it's probably a high chance that he plays home to Crystal Palace, which I do think it could happen. He could get that rest, which means it'll be okay for the Crystal Palace game. It just depends what players he wants to rest this time around. There's obviously going to be some players that get rested in terms of the starting 11. Trent at home to Brighton, James away to Newcastle, and Diaz at home to Crystal Palace. Again, Foden at home to Crystal Palace, Raphinha away to Norwich, Salah at home to Brighton as captain, Tony away to Burnley. Now, I know on paper this seems like a nice fixture, but I'm not sure if the matchup would actually suit him just because of the physicality of the other defenders and the way that sort of the makeup of Burnley's team, if you like. I'm not sure that's necessarily going to suit him. Obviously, I know Ben Mee isn't fit at the moment. He hasn't played the last few games, so maybe there's a bit of a weakness there. He can maybe isolate himself onto, I think it's Collins that's playing there, or it might be Long. I'm not sure. He's playing along Tarkowski. But there could be, if Ben Mee's fit and Tarkowski's fit, and the normal back five and the goalkeeper and the two sort of midfielders, etc. It could be a bit of a difficult game for Tony, but I think I'm going to be playing him. Jimenez home to Everton. That I think is a Monday night game as well. So I'll look to play him. I think he's in relatively good form in terms of contributions for the team, etc. And Wolves' form has picked up a little bit as well. And then Tony away to Aston Villa. Doesn't seem the nicest fixture. But then Villa do concede quite a few goals as well. So, it just depends on... So this will be... I touched on Antonio earlier on about him having a rest in Europe. So he'll probably play... Obviously, he played yesterday, the day before. Yesterday, I think it was, against Spurs. Then he's probably going to play against Man City. Whether he plays 90 or not, I'm not sure. I'd rather him not play 90. I think he'll get a start, probably get 60 or 70. And then Antonio will be, that game against Villa will be his third game in sort of a week. That's quite a big load for someone like Antonio, who's kind of injury prone. His hamstrings could ping at any moment. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those ones where now it seems okay, but then fast forward sort of a week, it might be that the load might be too much for him. So maybe it might be that Smith-Rowe comes in possibly for Antonio. I'm not sure yet. So that's kind of how I'm feeling at the moment. It all depends on midweek. If City go and dispatch West Ham quite comfortably and Antonio comes off after sort of 60 minutes, then that's quite nice for me. I'll probably play him against Villa. And then that leaves Foster on the bench with Smith-Rowe, Livramento again, and Brownhill. So that's kind of how I'm feeling at the moment. I've obviously got one free transfer, hopefully looking to roll. It is early in the week. Anything can happen in terms of midweek fixtures and injuries and COVID, etc. So that's kind of how I'm sitting at the moment. Yeah, that's kind of my team set up for game week 10. There you have it, guys. That is my game week 9 review and early team thoughts for game week 10 done. I hope you enjoyed that FPL video. A bit of content for you guys. I hope you guys find this insightful, gain a bit of knowledge. Follow my journey, because obviously I like producing content for you guys. If you are new to this channel, please follow us on our YouTube channel, the Indian Football Coach TIFC. We're obviously on loads of different social medias as well. It would be really, really great if you could just give us a follow on all those over on Twitter, on Instagram, FPL.Coach as well. And obviously, if you want to go one step further and follow us on my business account as well, the Indian Football Coach. On Instagram, you absolutely can as well. So, yeah, if you do like this video, please do drop it a like. Leave yourself a comment in the comments below. Do you think Raphinha will be fit for the game against Norwich? And do you think he is a reasonable shout for even captaincy or vice captaincy? Do you think maybe Phil Foden deserves a chance as captain or as vice captain, or just keep it on Mo Salah because it is Mo Salah after all? I'll see you everyone next time.